My wife looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I want the house, the cars, the business, everything." She wasn't crying, she wasn't apologizing. She was demanding, like she was ordering something off a menu, like 14 years of marriage, 2 kids, and everything I'd built with my own hands was just a transaction she was ready to close. My lawyer grabbed my arm so hard I thought he'd leave a bruise. Hugh Pembroke had been practicing family law for 30 years. He'd seen nasty divorces. He'd seen spouses try to destroy each other. But when I told him what I was about to do, the color drained from his face. "Donnie, don't do this. We can fight. We should fight. She's not entitled to half of what she's asking for." I looked at him. Then I looked at Nora, sitting across the conference table with her attorney, that smug little smile on her face. The same face I used to kiss goodnight, the same woman I held when her mother died. The same person who swore before God and our families that she'd stand by me through everything. "Give it all to her," I said. Hugh dropped his pen. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. The house, the cars, the business. Give her everything she wants." Nora's smile flickered. She wasn't expecting that. Her lawyer leaned over and whispered something in her ear. She nodded slowly, like a cat who just cornered a mouse. She thought she'd broken me. She thought I was surrendering. Everyone did. My mother called me that night in tears. Corinne Sutler raised 2 boys on her own after my father died. She worked double shifts as a nurse. She sacrificed everything so Boyd and I could have a future. And now she was watching her youngest son hand over his entire life to a woman who didn't deserve a single cent of it. "Donovan, please. Your father built that company from nothing. He poured his heart into Sutler and Sons. You can't just give it away. You can't. Mom, I need you to trust me." "Trust you? Honey, you're not thinking straight. You're hurt. You're angry. Let me call Boyd. Let us help you." "I'm not angry, Mom, not anymore. And I promise you I know exactly what I'm doing." She didn't believe me. I could hear it in her voice. That tremor of fear that her son had finally snapped under the weight of betrayal. My brother Boyd showed up at my apartment the next day. He's a firefighter, big guy, protective. He's never liked Nora, and he made that clear from the day I introduced them. But he kept his mouth shut for 14 years because he loved me and he respected my choices. He didn't keep his mouth shut that day. "You're telling me you're going to let her walk away with everything? The house we helped you renovate? The business Dad started in his garage? You're just going to hand it over?" "Yes." "Why?" I pulled out a folder, thick, full of documents, bank statements, invoices, canceled checks. I slid it across the kitchen table. "Because she doesn't know what she's really taking." Boyd opened the folder. He read the first page, then the second. By the 5th page, his jaw was tight and his hands were shaking. "Is this real?" "Every word." "And she doesn't know you found this?" "Not a clue." He closed the folder and looked at me. For the first time since this whole nightmare started, he smiled. "Little brother, you might be the smartest man I've ever met." See? Everyone thought I was broken. They thought I'd given up. They saw a man who walked into divorce proceedings and waved the white flag without throwing a single punch, but they didn't know what I knew. They didn't see what I'd found buried in 3 years of financial records. They didn't understand that sometimes the best way to win isn't to fight harder. It's to step aside and let your enemy walk straight into the trap they built for themselves. So when I walked into that courtroom for the final hearing, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I wasn't defeated. I was patient. Nora sat at her table, dressed like she was ready for a magazine cover. She'd already picked out new furniture for the house. She'd already made plans to rebrand the business. She'd already spent money she thought was coming to her. She smiled at me when I walked in, that cold, victorious smile. I signed every document they put in front of me. I agreed to every term. My lawyer looked like he was attending a funeral. And then the courtroom doors opened. 2 men in suits walked in. Federal agents. They handed a document to Nora's lawyer. I watched his face turn white. I watched him lean over and whisper 5 words into her ear, 5 words that changed everything. Nora's smile disappeared. Her hands started shaking, and then she screamed. She screamed so loud the bailiff rushed over. She screamed my name like a curse. But I just sat there, calm as a summer morning, and watched the woman who stole my trust, my money, and my family finally get exactly what she deserved. My name is Donovan Sutler. My friends call me Donnie. And this is the story of how I lost everything and won. Let me take you back to where it all started. I grew up in a small town outside of Columbus, Ohio. My father, Walter Sutler, was a plumber. Not the kind who shows up late and overcharges you for a leaky faucet. He was the real deal. Commercial jobs, office buildings, hospitals, schools. He started Sutler & Sons Plumbing in 1987, working out of our garage with nothing but a used van and a willingness to outwork everyone else. By the time I was 12, I was riding along on jobs. By 16, I could snake a drain and sweat a copper pipe better than most grown men. My brother Boyd went a different direction. He became a firefighter. But me? I loved the work. I loved building something with my hands. I loved solving problems that other guys walked away from. Dad died of a heart attack when I was 30. Found him in the shop one morning, slumped over his workbench. The doctor said it was quick. Said he probably didn't feel a thing. I don't know if that made it better or worse. He left me the business. Sutler & Sons, 12 employees, a solid reputation, and a legacy that I swore I would protect with everything I had. I met Nora 2 years before Dad passed. She was working as a receptionist at a dental office where I was installing new water lines. She had this laugh that could fill a room. She made me feel like the most interesting man alive, even when I was covered in grease and smelled like PVC cement. We dated for a year, got married at a little church outside of town. My mother cried. Boyd gave a toast that made everyone laugh. Nora looked at me during our first dance like I was her whole world. For a while, I believed I was. Maisie came along 2 years later, a beautiful baby girl with her mother's eyes and my stubbornness. Then Theo, 3 years after that, a wild little boy who wanted to be just like his dad. I used to carry him on my shoulders through the hardware store, letting him pick out tools he was too young to use. Those were good years, hard years, but good ones. I worked 60, sometimes 70 hours a week building the business. We landed bigger contracts, hired more guys, bought new trucks. I wasn't getting rich, but I was providing. I was building something my kids could be proud of. But somewhere around year 10 of our marriage, Nora changed. It didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like a pipe rusting from the inside. You don't notice it until the whole thing bursts. She stopped asking about my day. She started complaining about the house, even though we'd spent 2 summers renovating it with my brother's help. She wanted a bigger kitchen, a nicer car, vacations to places we couldn't afford. Everyone else is moving forward, Donnie. Why are we standing still? We're not standing still. We're building something. Building what? This? She gestured around our living room like it was a prison. I didn't sign up for this life. You signed up for me. She didn't answer. She just walked away. I told myself it was stress. I told myself she was tired from raising 2 kids while I worked long hours. I told myself that if I just worked harder, made more money, gave her what she wanted, things would get better. They didn't. She quit her part-time job, said she needed to focus on the kids, but the kids were in school all day, and when I came home, she was usually on her phone or watching TV. The house was a mess, dinner was takeout, and every conversation turned into a fight about money. That's when I hired Vance Odom. I needed help with the books. The business had grown too big for me to manage the finances alone, and I was drowning in invoices and payroll and tax documents. A buddy recommended Vance. Said he was sharp, professional, trustworthy. Vance showed up to our first meeting in a pressed suit and a confident smile. He talked about efficiency and optimization and growth strategies. He made me feel like I'd been doing everything wrong my whole life, but he could fix it. I handed him the keys to the kingdom. Every bank account, every contract, every financial record Sutler and Sons had ever produced. Looking back, I can see how stupid that was, but at the time, I was exhausted. I was trying to save my marriage. I was trying to be a good father. I didn't have the energy to question a man who came with glowing recommendations. Vance started coming to the house for dinner. Nora loved him. She laughed at his jokes. She asked about his life. She treated him like an honored guest while she treated me like the help. I should have seen it. The signs were everywhere. But I trusted her. I trusted him. I trusted that the life I'd built meant something to the people I'd built it with. My mother tried to warn me. Corinne Sutler is not a woman who speaks without thinking. So when she pulled me aside after Sunday dinner one night, I should have listened. "Donovan, something's not right with that woman." "Mom, please, not this again. I'm not trying to start trouble. I'm trying to protect my son. She looks at you like you're a stranger. And the way she looks at that accountant of yours is something else entirely." I told her she was imagining things. I told her that Nora and I were going through a rough patch, but we'd work it out. I was wrong. I was so incredibly wrong. And I was about to find out just how deep the betrayal went. It was a Tuesday in March when my whole life fell apart. I remember the date because we had a big job scheduled at a medical complex on the east side of town. New construction, 3 floors of plumbing. It was supposed to take all day, but the general contractor called that morning and pushed the start date back a week. Something about permits not clearing in time. I decided to go home early. Maybe surprise Nora. Maybe take the kids out for ice cream after school. I stopped at a gas station and bought her favorite flowers, yellow roses. She used to love when I brought her flowers for no reason. I pulled into the driveway around noon. Nora's car was there, which meant she was home. But when I walked through the front door, the house was quiet. Too quiet. "Nora, you here?" No answer. I set the flowers on the kitchen counter, walked through the living room. Nothing. I figured maybe she was napping. She'd been complaining about headaches lately. I headed upstairs. The bedroom door was closed. I could hear something on the other side. Voices, low, muffled. My heart started pounding before my brain even caught up. Some part of me already knew what I was about to find. Some part of me had known for months and refused to accept it. I pushed open that door, and there they were, Nora and Vance Odom, in my bed, in my house, in the room where my children slept down the hall. Time stopped. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just stood there, holding a bouquet of yellow roses, staring at the 2 people I trusted most in the world, wrapped around each other like I didn't exist. Nora screamed. Vance scrambled for his clothes, and something inside me went cold. Not hot, not angry, just cold, like someone had poured ice water through my veins. "Donnie, wait, let me explain." "Explain what, Nora? Explain how you ended up in bed with my accountant? Explain how long this has been going on behind my back?" She pulled the sheet around herself like she had any dignity left to protect. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. How long?" She didn't answer. She looked at Vance instead. He was buttoning his shirt, avoiding my eyes. "How long?" I asked again. Vance finally spoke. "About a year. A year, 12 months, 52 weeks of lies, of smiles across my dinner table, of handshakes and business meetings and pretending to be my friend while he was sleeping with my wife. Get out of my house." "Donnie, let's talk about this like adults," Vance said, moving toward the door. "Business is business." I stepped in front of him. "Business? You call this business? You've eaten Thanksgiving dinner with my family. You've held my son. You looked me in the eye every single week and lied to my face. I think you're overreacting." I grabbed him by the collar and shoved him against the wall. I'm not a violent man. I've never thrown a punch in anger in my entire life. But in that moment, I wanted to break him in half. "Get out, now, before I do something I can't take back." He left, didn't even look at Nora on his way out. She started crying. Real tears or fake ones, I couldn't tell anymore. "Donnie, please. I was lonely. You're never home. You don't pay attention to me. I needed someone who made me feel wanted. I've worked 70 hours a week to give you everything you asked for. The house, the cars, the vacations. And this is how you repay me? Maybe if you were here more, maybe if you tried harder." "Tried harder? I've given you 14 years of my life, Nora. I've given you everything I have. Well, it wasn't enough." I left the house that night, drove to my mother's place and sat on her porch until the sun came up. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat there, trying to figure out how I'd missed something so obvious for so long. A week later, Nora filed for divorce, but she didn't just want out. She wanted blood, the house, both vehicles, full custody of Maisie and Theo, and Sutler and Sons Plumbing, the company my father built, the company I dedicated my entire adult life to growing. Her lawyer sent over a demand letter that made my stomach turn. She claimed she'd been an unpaid partner in building the business. She said she deserved compensation for years of emotional labor and domestic sacrifice. My lawyer, Hugh Pembroke, called me the same day. "Donnie, this is extortion. She's not entitled to the business. We can fight this." "I know we can." "Good, so let's start building our case." "Not yet, Hugh. There's something I need to check first." That night, I drove to the office. I pulled every financial record from the last 3 years. Bank statements, invoices, vendor payments, check ledgers. I spread them across my father's old desk and started reading. By midnight, I'd found the first fake invoice. By 2 in the morning, I'd found 12 more. By sunrise, I'd uncovered nearly $400,000 in fraudulent transactions. Shell companies, fake vendors, payments for materials that never existed. And on half of those checks right there in black ink was my wife's signature. Nora wasn't just cheating on me, she was robbing me blind, and she thought she was going to get away with it. I sat in my mother's kitchen the next morning with the folder spread out in front of me. 3 years of theft. Nearly $400,000. Fake invoices. Shell companies. And my wife's signature on check after check after check. My first instinct was to confront her, to throw these documents in her face and watch her squirm, to call the police and have her arrested on the spot. But then I stopped myself. Nora was smart. Not wise, but smart. She'd spent years planning this. If I tipped her off now, she'd find a way to cover her tracks. She'd blame Vance, she'd destroy evidence, she'd twist the story until she looked like the victim. I needed a different approach. I called my brother Boyd that afternoon. He came over after his shift, still smelling like smoke from a house fire he'd worked that morning. I handed him a beer and slid the folder across the table. "What's this?" "Proof that my wife and my accountant have been stealing from me for 3 years." Boyd opened the folder. He's not a man who shows emotion easily. 30 years of running into burning buildings teaches you to keep a steady face. But as he flipped through those pages, I watched his jaw tighten and his knuckles go white. $400,000? Give or take. And Nora signed off on all of this? Half of it. Vance handled the rest. Boyd closed the folder and looked at me. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to let her take the company." He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're going to what?" "Think about it, Boyd. She wants Sutler and Sons. She's demanding it in the divorce. If I fight her, she'll dig in. She'll hide the evidence. She'll make this drag out for years. But if I give it to her willingly, she takes ownership of everything, including 3 years of financial fraud. You're going to let her inherit her own crimes." "Exactly." Boyd leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "That's either the smartest thing I've ever heard or the dumbest. I need your help finding a forensic accountant, someone who can document all of this properly, someone who can build a case that will hold up in federal court." "Federal court? This isn't just theft, Boyd. This is wire fraud, tax evasion. These fake invoices went through business accounts. That crossed state lines. This is federal territory. Boyd finished his beer and set the bottle down. I know a guy, works with the fire marshal's office on arson investigations. He's connected to people who handle financial crimes. Let me make some calls. 3 days later, I was sitting in a conference room with a forensic accountant named Dale Richter. He was a quiet man in his 50s with reading glasses and a stack of yellow legal pads. He didn't look like much, but Boyd promised me he was the best in the state. I handed him everything. Every bank statement, every invoice, every canceled check. He spent 2 weeks going through it all, documenting every fraudulent transaction, tracing every fake vendor, building a timeline of the theft. When he was finished, he called me back to his office. Mr. Sutler, you have a very strong case here. This isn't amateur theft. This is systematic embezzlement. Your wife and your accountant have been running a coordinated scheme for at least 36 months. What are my options? You could pursue civil charges, sue them both for damages. But given the scope of this, I'd recommend going to the federal authorities. The IRS has a criminal investigation division that handles cases like this. Wire fraud alone carries up to 20 years. How do we proceed? I submit my findings to the IRS. They open an investigation. It happens quietly. No one knows until they're ready to make arrests. And if my wife takes ownership of the company before that happens? Dale smiled. Then she assumes full liability for everything that company has done. Every fraudulent transaction, every fake invoice, every dollar that disappeared, it all becomes her legal responsibility. I shook his hand and walked out of that office feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend. I had to sit across from Nora in mediation and act like a defeated man. I had to watch her smirk and gloat while her lawyer listed demand after demand. My own lawyer thought I was having a breakdown. Donnie, I'm begging you. Let me fight this. We have grounds to contest every single thing she's asking for. No, Hugh, we agree to her terms. The house? Give it to her. The vehicles? Give them to her. The business your father built? All of it, Hugh, every last piece. He threw his pen on the table. I've been practicing law for 30 years. I've never seen a man so determined to destroy himself. I'm not destroying myself, I'm setting a trap. He looked at me for a long moment. What do you know that I don't? Nothing you need to worry about yet, just trust me. When the time comes, everything will make sense. My mother was harder to convince. She came to my apartment one night with a casserole dish and tears in her eyes. Donovan, please, I'm begging you. Don't do this. That company is all we have left of your father. I took her hands in mine. Mom, do you trust me? Of course I do. Then believe me when I tell you that Dad would understand. Sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war, and I promise you, when this is over, you'll be proud of how I handled it. She didn't say anything. She just hugged me and held on like she was afraid to let go. I spent every free moment with my kids during those weeks. I took Theo to baseball practice. I helped Maisie with her science project. I told them every single day that I loved them and that none of this was their fault. Because no matter what happened with Nora, those 2 kids were my real legacy, and I was going to protect them no matter what it cost me. The day of the final hearing arrived on a cold Thursday morning in October. I woke up at 5, same as always. Old habits don't die just because your life is falling apart. I showered, shaved, and put on my cleanest button-down shirt. Not a suit. I didn't own one. Just a simple blue shirt that my daughter Maisie had given me for Father's Day 2 years ago. I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. I looked tired. Older than 38. But underneath the exhaustion, there was something else. Something steady, something calm. Today was the day. I drove to the courthouse alone. My brother offered to come, but I told him to stay home. My mother wanted to be there, but I asked her to wait by the phone. This was something I needed to do by myself. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, an American flag hanging limply in the corner. It smelled like old paper and stale coffee. Nora was already there when I walked in. She sat at the plaintiff's table with her lawyer, a slick man named Patterson who charged $400 an hour and looked like he enjoyed taking men apart in court. Nora looked beautiful. She always did when she wanted something. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. She wore a cream-colored blazer that probably cost more than my truck payment. She smiled when she saw me. That cold, triumphant smile I'd come to know so well. I nodded at her and took my seat next to Hugh. He looked like a man attending his best friend's funeral. Last chance, Donnie. I can still object to these terms. I can still fight. No, Hugh, we stick to the plan. What plan? You're handing her everything. Trust me. The judge entered. An older woman named Hendricks with gray hair and sharp eyes. She'd seen 1,000 divorces. Ours was just another file on her desk. She reviewed the settlement terms out loud. The house at 412 Maple Drive, transferred to Lenora Sutler. The 2021 Ford F-150 and 2022 Honda Pilot, transferred to Lenora Sutler. Full ownership of Sutler & Sons Plumbing, including all assets, contracts, equipment, and financial accounts, transferred to Lenora Sutler. All assets and liabilities. Those words hung in the air like smoke. Mr. Sutler, do you understand and accept these terms? I do, Your Honor. And you're entering into this agreement voluntarily without coercion. Yes, Your Honor. Hugh shifted beside me. I could feel his frustration radiating off him like heat. The judge slid the documents across her bench. Very well. Please sign where indicated. I stood up, walked to the bench, picked up the pen. Nora watched me with barely concealed glee. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd broken me so completely that I didn't even have the strength to fight. I signed my name on every page. Steady hand, clear signature, no hesitation. When I finished, I turned and looked at Nora one last time. She was already whispering to her lawyer, probably planning how to spend the money she thought was coming to her. I returned to my seat. Hugh wouldn't look at me. Judge Hendricks was about to close the proceedings when the courtroom doors opened. 2 men walked in. Dark suits, serious faces. Federal badges visible on their belts. One of them carried a manila envelope. The whole room went quiet. The first agent walked directly to Patterson, Nora's lawyer. He handed him the envelope without a word. Patterson opened it. I watched his face change. The confidence drained out of him like water from a broken pipe. His skin went pale. His hands trembled slightly as he read. Nora leaned over. What is it? What's wrong? Patterson turned to her. He leaned close and whispered 5 words. Vance Odom was just arrested. For a moment, Nora didn't react. She just stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. Then she grabbed the document from his hands. I watched her eyes move across the page. I watched the color drain from her face. I watched her lips start to tremble. The document was a federal indictment. Wire fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion, conspiracy to commit financial crimes. 2 names were listed as defendants, Vance Odom and Lenora Sutler. Nora stood up so fast her chair fell backward. No, this isn't right. This is a mistake. Judge Hendricks banged her gavel. Mrs. Sutler, please compose yourself. You don't understand. I didn't do anything. This was all Vance. He handled the money. I just signed what he told me to sign. The federal agent stepped forward. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Nora spun toward me. Her perfect composure shattered. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her voice came out as a scream. You did this. You set me up. You knew. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, hands folded on the table, and looked at her. You gave me the company because you knew it was poisoned. You let me take it so I'd take the blame. You planned this whole thing. Judge Hendricks banged her gavel again. Order! I will have order in this courtroom. But Nora wasn't listening. She lunged toward me. The bailiff caught her before she made it 3 steps. "I'll destroy you, Donnie. I swear to God I'll destroy you for this." I stood up slowly, buttoned my jacket, looked her straight in the eyes. "You already tried, Nora. You've been trying for 3 years. But here's the thing about building a life on lies. Eventually, the foundation cracks, and everything comes tumbling down." The bailiff escorted her out of the courtroom. She was still screaming my name when the doors closed behind her. Hugh sat beside me in stunned silence. Finally, he spoke. "You knew. This whole time, you knew. I knew. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed it to be real, Hugh. I needed her to believe she'd won. I needed her to take ownership of that company with her own signature on the dotted line. Because the moment she did, she became legally responsible for every crime committed under its name." Hugh let out a breath and shook his head. "In 30 years of practicing law, I have never seen anything like that." I shook his hand and walked out of the courtroom. The sun was shining outside. First time in weeks I'd noticed. 6 months have passed since that day in the courtroom. Vance Odom pleaded guilty to 12 counts of wire fraud and embezzlement. He's currently serving 18 months in a federal correctional facility in West Virginia. His law license, which he apparently had from a previous career, was revoked. His reputation is destroyed. The man who sat at my dinner table and smiled while stealing from my family will spend the next year and a half staring at concrete walls. Nora's case took longer to resolve. She hired 3 different lawyers trying to fight the charges. She claimed she was manipulated. She claimed she didn't understand what she was signing. She claimed Vance had coerced her into participating. None of it worked. The forensic evidence was overwhelming. Her signatures were on the checks. Her email address was linked to the shell companies. Her fingerprints were all over the fraud. In the end, she took a plea deal, 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service, full restitution of the stolen funds, which meant liquidating everything she'd fought so hard to take from me. The house went into foreclosure because she couldn't make the payments. The cars were repossessed. Sutler and Sons Plumbing was dissolved, its contracts canceled and its equipment sold at auction. She lost everything, not because I took it from her, but because she took it from herself. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some satisfaction in watching it all fall apart. After everything she did, after every lie and every betrayal, there was a part of me that wanted to see her suffer. But that feeling faded faster than I expected. Revenge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It doesn't heal anything. It doesn't rebuild anything. It just keeps you chained to the person who hurt you. So I let it go. I started over with nothing but my tools and my reputation. I filed paperwork for a new company, Sutler Plumbing Services, smaller than the original, simpler, but mine. Built clean from the ground up with no partners, no accountants I didn't trust, and no secrets hiding in the books. My old crew came back to work for me. Every single one of them. Danny Flores, my lead pipe fitter, showed up on my first day in the new shop with a case of beer and a handshake. "Heard you're hiring, boss. Pay's going to be lower for a while, until I rebuild." "Don't care. I'd rather work for a good man making less than a bad one, making more." We landed our first contract 2 weeks later. A general contractor named Rick Bowman had heard what happened. Not the gossip, the truth. He called me personally. "Donnie, I've been in this business for 25 years. I've seen men go through what you went through and come out bitter, broken, or bankrupt. You came out standing. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. I want you on my projects." That one phone call led to 3 more. Word spread. Within 4 months, Sutler Plumbing Services had more work than I could handle. I hired 2 new guys and bought a second van. My mother cried when she saw the new shop. She stood in the doorway with her hand over her heart, looking at the sign I'd hung above the entrance. "Your father would be so proud of you, Donovan." "I hope so, Mom." "I know so. You did what he always taught you. You stayed honest. You stayed patient. And you let the truth do the heavy lifting. Boyd comes by every Sunday now. We sit on my mother's porch, drink beer, and watch the sun go down. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't. Either way, it feels like home. The custody arrangement took some time to sort out. With Nora's legal troubles, the court agreed to revisit the original terms. I now have Maisie and Theo every other week, plus holidays and summers. It's not perfect, but it's fair. The kids are doing better than I expected. Children are resilient, more resilient than we give them credit for. Maisie asked me once if I hated her mother for what she did. I thought about it for a long time before I answered. No, sweetheart. I don't hate her. Hate is too heavy to carry around. It weighs you down and keeps you stuck in the past. Your mom made choices that hurt a lot of people, including herself. But hating her won't change that. The only thing I can control is how I move forward. And I choose to move forward with love. For you, for your brother, for this family. She hugged me tight and didn't let go for a long time. Theo is simpler about the whole thing. He just wants to play catch and eat pizza and know that his dad will show up when he says he will. I've never missed a single baseball game. I never will. Looking back, I learned something important through all of this. Strength isn't about fighting every battle. It's about knowing which battles to fight and which ones to let go. It's about trusting that the truth will come out, even when it feels like lies are winning. It's about protecting your peace, your integrity, and the people who matter most, even when the world tells you to burn everything down. My wife wanted everything. I gave it to her. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every consequence she'd earned. She thought she was taking my future, but all she took was her own. And me, I'm still here, still building, still standing. Because some things can't be stolen: character, integrity, the love of your children, the respect of good people. Those things have to be earned, and once you earn them, no one can take them away. If you're going through something hard right now, if someone has betrayed you or broken your trust or made you feel like you've lost everything, I want you to hear this. You haven't lost, not yet, not ever. As long as you stay true to who you are, as long as you keep moving forward with honesty and patience, you will find your way through. The storm doesn't last forever, but the person you become while weathering it stays with you for the rest of your life. My name is Donovan Sutler, and that's my story. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop a comment below and tell me what part resonated with you the most. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. We've got more coming every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.